Ugh, you look so pathetic soaking wet. Seeing me drenched in mineral water, my manager Lisa said so in a cheerful voice. Today is the first time I meet her. Why would you do something like this? I asked as I wiped my face with a towel a colleague had brought me. Lisa, without a hint of remorse, responded. Because I don't like you. That's all. From her expression, there was no sign of regret. Amidst this, a man hurriedly approached Lisa. He was Benjamin, her father, and the department manager. His expression was the complete opposite of the delighted Lisa. He was pale as if in shock. Lisa, take back what you just said and apologize right now. Benjamin was frantic as he confronted his daughter. Lisa, unable to accept her father's words, retorted. Why should I apologize to such an incompetent employee? Questioning her nerve to call someone incompetent to their face, I silently observed the situation. Faced with his daughter's arrogant attitude, Benjamin quietly began to explain something. Hearing this, Lisa's attitude dramatically changed. The details were: my name is Alexander. I recently graduated college and just started working as an employee. While it might not seem like a glamorous aspiration, I have always dreamed of working at a company. While my peers dreamed of becoming astronauts or pilots, I was the odd one out. Still, regardless of what others thought, I admired the life of a salaried worker. This was largely due to my father. My father, Oliver, never compromised in his work and was deeply trusted within the company. Not just for his results but also for how he valued his colleagues. His attitude was attractive even to me as a child. My father taught me many important things. Particularly, he always said, value people and you can't achieve anything on your own. I heard these words so often they became a guide to live by. Despite his numerous accomplishments and accolades, my father never saw them as his alone. His attitude of humility and dedication to his work was always my aspiration. Father often invited his subordinates and colleagues home. It was clear from these interactions how well liked he was by everyone at the company. He not only discussed work but also listened sincerely to personal matters. He valued his co-workers not just as company assets but as individuals, which was evident even from just observing. It was no wonder that he was so admired by everyone around him. I wanted to be a salaried worker just like my father. Although it was too embarrassing to tell him directly, I genuinely felt that way. And now, having graduated from college, I've started my job. The company I joined is the same one where my father worked until his retirement. I chose it because of what I heard from him. The company culture and workplace atmosphere seem impeccable. Of course, there are many things I won't know until I actually start working. Still, I was eager to try my best in the same environment where my respected father had worked. There are still people in the company who worked with my father, and they have been very kind to me. It's clear how much my father was loved by so many. Just thinking about it fills me with joy. A senior told me, "Your father really helped me out, so don't hesitate to come to me if you need anything." It's very thankful, but I shouldn't rely on it too much. It feels like I'm taking advantage of my father's reputation and makes me somewhat uneasy. I steeled myself and threw myself into my work. I would have liked to say that relationships at work were generally good, but there was just one person who despised me. That person was Benjamin, the department manager. Benjamin seemed to resent that I was getting attention because of my father and took every opportunity to dislike me. Whenever I asked for explanations on new tasks, he would invariably scoff, "You can't even do this? Didn't you graduate college?" and laugh at me with a look of disdain. Each time, I felt frustrated, but as a newcomer, I couldn't even argue back. Benjamin, who constantly hurled sarcastic remarks, would assign me tasks without properly teaching me anything, as if it was his daily routine. No matter how much I asked, he never gave me a proper answer and continued to look down on me. I have some questions about this task. Just figure it out and do it yourself. But even so, stop bothering me. You're useless and incompetent. Benjamin's outburst echoed across the floor. Seeing my frightened expression, Benjamin seemed pleased. All you do is talk back. What kind of upbringing did your parents give you? His sneering, ugly demeanor as he ridiculed me was nothing short of grotesque. I could have endured being criticized personally. But hearing him speak ill of my respected father was painfully hard to bear. Yet, I couldn't just explode in anger and lash out. I bit my lip and endured. I thought if I could produce results so impressive that no one could criticize them, he would have to acknowledge me. I worked hard with that belief, but Benjamin's attitude didn't change at all. If anything, it only got worse day by day. He even started hiding necessary documents in obscure places, almost driving me to a nervous breakdown. The reason I was able to continue working despite all this was because I was fortunate to have supportive colleagues and seniors. They helped me when they saw me struggling with Benjamin's harassment. Without them, my spirit would have broken long ago. I cannot forget the kindness these people have shown me. Reinvigorated, I doubled down on my efforts. As a result, I became able to handle tasks at a much faster pace compared to others. The label of being the son of a well-regarded former boss no longer mattered. I had earned everyone's respect through my own abilities. My colleagues and seniors rejoiced in my growth as if it were their own. It was just as my father taught, you can't achieve anything on your own. If I continued to produce good results, Benjamin would have to recognize me. With certainty, I continued my daily life, but one day, out of the blue, Benjamin called me in. I hadn't made any mistakes or taken any problematic actions. Wondering what it was about, Benjamin spoke calmly. "You seem to be doing well lately." "Thank you. I have a suitable job prepared for you." A job suitable for me. Though it seemed a bit suspicious, I was interested. More than anything, I was happy to finally be recognized by Benjamin. "What kind of job is it?" I leaned in eagerly as I asked Benjamin. "I want you to be involved in a project to start up a new branch." "Starting up a branch office?" I couldn't help but raise my voice in surprise. I thought it was just another office task, so I was pretty surprised. Even without asking for details, I knew it was a significant project. The prospect of setting up a new branch was more exciting than daunting. "So, what will it be? Are you in or out?" "I want to do it. Please let me join the branch setup project." There was no time to hesitate. Even if it meant moving out of state, I was prepared for that. I had that level of resolve. That's the spirit. "You're not having second thoughts, are you?" "Of course not." Hearing my firm response, Benjamin flashed a cunning smile. That expression made me feel a bit worried. And then, in the next moment, Benjamin said something unbelievable. "Well then, do your best in Africa." What? It might have been the biggest shock of my life. Unbelievably, the location of the new branch Benjamin mentioned was Africa. Caught off guard by the overseas assignment, I couldn't hide my confusion. That's when I realized, this was Benjamin's trap. "Recently, you've been getting cocky because you've sped up your work. Are you sending me to Africa just for that?" It's a punishment for a young upstart who thinks he's something just because he can handle his job a bit. It was absurd. I wasn't getting cocky at all. I had never heard of being punished for being competent at work. The more shocked I looked, the more Benjamin's smile broadened. Ultimately, it didn't matter whether I was competent or not to him. The reason wasn't clear, but he just disliked me as a person. Thus, my trip to Africa was decided. When I told my colleagues and seniors about going to Africa, everyone was shocked. Although they knew Benjamin had a malicious character, no one imagined he would go this far. Hopefully, it would all turn out to be just a joke, but that seemed unlikely. And, although I hadn't been told the details, I had agreed to go. It would be my first time overseas, and it would be a lie to say I wasn't anxious, but I had to be resolute. It would likely be years before I could return to this workplace. Encouraged and bid tearful farewells by my colleagues and seniors, I set off for Africa. I will make the Africa branch project a success. It might seem like grasping at clouds, but I saw it as a chance. My state of mind could be described as 80% anxiety and 20% hope. In the end, I just have to do it. I murmured to myself on the plane to Africa. Years passed. After completing the branch setup project in Africa, I returned to the United States. I was to return to the head office. People had changed, and there were many new faces. One particularly notable person was a woman named Lisa, who had become a manager while I was away. As I was making my rounds greeting people at the head office, she appeared out of nowhere. "Are you the guy who was so useless he got shipped off to Africa?" meeting me for the first time and saying such things right away. I was shocked by her insensitive remarks, but after hearing a certain piece of information about her, I somehow understood. Lisa is actually the daughter of Benjamin, the one who sent me to Africa. From what I've heard from my colleagues, she seems to have a particularly problematic personality. Taking advantage of her father's support, she behaves as she pleases, causing trouble. She hardly does her job properly, spending her day on her phone looking for men on dating apps. Her threat to employees she dislikes is, "If you defy me, you're fired. Pack your bags and leave right away." She constantly makes these selfish demands. Her reputation in the company is the absolute worst. She holds the position of manager only because of her father, and she is nothing but a nuisance. It seems the office was quite stirred up because of her while I was in Africa. Listening to these stories, I was nothing short of appalled. Nevertheless, there are familiar faces of colleagues and seniors at the workplace. They are the people who genuinely worried and supported me when I went to Africa. I went around greeting those I had previously relied on. Everyone was happy about my return. It was a heartwarming reception. Seeing the faces of my colleagues and seniors, I felt genuinely happy. As I was making my rounds, one person approached me. It was Lisa. Her expression was discontent, with a deep frown between her brows. "Hey, you. What is it? I feel like people in the office are way too submissive around you." Apparently, that was the cause of Lisa's displeasure. It shouldn't matter to her how others act towards me, but... Lisa turned to the colleagues and seniors I was talking to and said, "Are you guys stupid, sucking up to someone like him?" Then she walked back to her desk, so I thought she had returned to work. But she came back holding something. It was a plastic bottle filled with mineral water. As she unscrewed the cap, I wondered what she was about to do. Suddenly, Lisa threw the water right at me. I never imagined being doused with water on my first day back at the head office. I was completely soaked. People around were shocked and quickly fetched a towel for me. "Ugh, you look so pathetic, all wet. Why would you do something like this?" "Because I don't like you. That's all." Lisa, smirking without a hint of remorse, smiled. Her smile was just like Benjamin's, and at that moment, I felt the unmistakable link between father and daughter. "By the way, I've heard all about you from Dad." "Dad? You mean Benjamin?" "That's right. The useless, incompetent employee, right?" I see, so that's what she had been told. It seemed she disliked the fact that an incompetent employee like me had returned and was being welcomed. "There's no place for an incompetent like you here, so you shouldn't have come back to America." Then, one person hurried over to Lisa. It was her father, Benjamin. His face was pale, and he was shaking. "Lisa, take back what you said and apologize right now." "What?" "Just apologize. Now. Why do I have to apologize to an incompetent employee?" Caught off guard by the demand for an apology, Lisa angrily confronted her father. With a look of anger, Benjamin responded to his daughter. "This man, Alexander, is a candidate for our next president." "What? A candidate for president? Are you kidding me? It's not April Fool's Day, is it?" Lisa was utterly astonished by Benjamin's statement. It's no wonder she was surprised. But the fact that I am a candidate for the next president was true. It was the result of successfully launching a branch in Africa. I built up achievements in a situation where I barely knew right from left, and was evaluated accordingly. Initially, I barely understood the language and often felt like giving up. However, the desire to prove Benjamin wrong and the encouragement from colleagues and seniors kept me from quitting. My hard work bore fruit, and how much I achieved was surprising. Lisa was the only one who didn't know I was a candidate for president. Even after Benjamin explained, she couldn't accept it and snapped back. "Impossible. Did you use connections or something?" "That's not the case." "But his father was your former boss, right?" As expected, it seemed Benjamin had connections with my father. For the record, I didn't use any connections whatsoever. Facing his flustered daughter, Benjamin sighed and said, "That man wouldn't use connections to hire or promote his son." Hearing Benjamin talk about my father was new and felt strange. "Alexander. I want to apologize for my past actions and my daughter's rudeness. I am truly sorry. Yes, Benjamin apologized. It was clear he wasn't just saying it superficially. It was hard to believe he was the same Benjamin who had harassed me so much. This was the moment I decided to ask something I had long wondered about. Benjamin, there's something I've always wanted to know. What is it? Why were you so unreasonably harsh on me? Well, Benjamin seemed troubled by the question, but I still wanted to know. Such harassment without any reason seemed unlikely. Slowly, Benjamin began to speak. As your daughter mentioned earlier, I was a subordinate under your father. I listened silently with a serious expression to what Benjamin had to say. Your father was a wonderful person. Although he treated me well, I also felt envious. What do you mean? Your father was competent and beloved by his peers. I envied that, and at the same time, it made me jealous. Why would you feel that way? I thought I was making a fair effort back then. Benjamin seemed to be reminiscing about the past, biting his lip as he continued. So I couldn't understand why I couldn't be like your father. That frustration built up. And you took it out on me because I was his son? Looking back now, it was nothing but childish retaliation. Saying this, Benjamin apologized again. I'm not big-hearted enough to easily forgive the unreasonable harassment I suffered. Still, I was surprised by the change in Benjamin. I realized something after sending you to Africa. What was that? That you, like your father, succeeded because you value relationships and care about those around you. Benjamin. I'm truly sorry. This was his third apology of the day. Moved by Benjamin's words, Lisa seemed to have a change of heart. She apologized to me. I'm truly sorry. As long as you understand, that's what matters. And so, the chaotic day somehow came to a peaceful end. Later, by order of the senior management, Benjamin and Lisa were assigned to the African branch. It seems they couldn't strongly oppose it, given what they had done to me. According to rumors, despite the hardships, they are learning the importance of human relations through their interactions with the locals. Both Benjamin and Lisa have become remarkably calmer, almost like different people. They must have reflected deeply after our conflict. I hope they continue their efforts without arrogance. I look forward to seeing their growth when we meet again in America. As for me, as a candidate for the next president, I'm facing my daily work with the help of those around me. Utilizing my experience in Africa, I'm striving positively and building my achievements. All this is thanks to the teachings of my father. Wanting to express my gratitude, I invited my father out for a drink. Raising a toast, I shared the news of becoming a candidate for president. You really worked hard. It's all because I followed the lessons you taught and put in the effort. I said this, filled with deep gratitude. My father smiled slightly, looking pleased. As a father, it makes me happy and proud to hear you say that. Hearing this made me even happier. But the most important thing is that it's your own effort that paid off. You should be proud of yourself. That makes me feel a bit embarrassed. Starting to blush, I quickly downed my beer to hide it. I resolved to keep my initial resolve and continue to improve. With this determination in my heart, I toasted once again with my